Hello and welcome back. It's puzzle time with Sudoku Sleuth, and today we're going to be playing Joint Venture. So, of course, being a Tuesday, we are back with the Artisanal Sudoku series from James Sinclair, and today's puzzle is from James Sinclair. Sometimes he does actually feature, well, I say sometimes, he regularly features other constructors, so sometimes you don't necessarily know who's going to be the constructor for this week's particular puzzle. Now, once again, I have picked the third of the three puzzles that he sends out every week as part of this is Artisanal Sudoku series, because there are two versions. There's one without extra clues, which is the one I'm going to be playing today, and then there is one with additional clues that may be a little bit easier and more up your street for a weekday puzzle. So, as with past weeks, you get to choose your own adventure with a couple of links down below when you actually get started. Now, you can see here that Sleuth doesn't look too chuffed about this joint venture. He's playing with this mysterious figure, some Sudoku puzzles, and he's not too happy about it. Unlike how I'm feeling about featuring today's puzzle, let's take a look at the rule set and the setup with Joint Venture by James Sinclair. Ignore the two, that's just me double checking that it is actually recording as opposed to I'm showing you an empty grid like I very often do. Right, rules-wise, we've got the following set of rules. Normal Sudoku rules apply. Place the digits 1 to 9, once each in every row. Every column, of course, every 3x3 box, so nothing unusual here. Then we have arrow sums. So sums of the digits along an arrow is equal to the digits in the connected circle. And these digits can repeat if allowed by other rules. Right, so for example, these two cells could be double 1. Their sum is equal to a 2, which is kind of what you end up writing in here. And then these two cells will have to sum up to 2, these two cells will have to sum up to 2, and of course these three cells will have to sum up to 2. Terrible example. But these three cells will have to sum up to whatever this value is. Now, we seem to have a bit of competition here about sums, region sum lines. So box borders divide each blue line into segments with the same sum. So these three cells will sum up to a value, call it x, and therefore these three cells must also come up to x, and then this last segment, which is actually just a single cell on its own, will also be x. So should be a fairly interesting combination of the two. Anything I forgot to mention, I very deliberately show the fact that you can repeat digits on arrows, providing, of course, they're in different rows, columns, and boxes. That's entirely allowed under today's rules. Region sum lines doesn't quite apply because obviously the segment is always in the same box. So, as always, to play along, link in the description down below. Well, links in the description down below. Pick your own adventure. And as always, I'm going to restart the clock and see how I got on. Right, I've got the first couple of digits. Let me start with this region sum line. Whenever you have three cells in the same column / box row, they have to be unique. So the minimum I can make this is 1, 2, and 3 with a 6. And in fact, it is a 6 because this arrow sum with these two cells being a minimum of 1 and 2 plus the 6 gets me to 9, which is the maximum I can put inside this circle. So this is entirely forced. This is 1, 2, 3. This is a 6. This is 1, 2, 3. This is 1, 2. This is a 9. And we have a fantastic start to get going with. Well, we should continue this start. Where can 9 go? In fact, both in column 4 and in row 6. So I'll tell you some fairly obvious clues. It's not in the same box as the 9. Can't be on an arrow sum that leads back to the 9 because that would have to be 0, which is not allowed under today's rule set. And it can't be this cell because if that's 9, even with 1 and 2, that's 12. That's not going to work. So it has to be on this region sum line, and then it tells me that all of these are 9s. And then column 4, same logic, can't be in the same box, can't be on the arrow sum, can't be on this arrow sum, again it'll be 12. That's the only place for it, that's 9. And look at that, me doing Sudoku. Where is 9 now in box 3? These are the only two places. Box 7. Can't be these two. So, okay, Sudoku says it's none of these. Can't be these two cells because, again, I'm leading to a single cell sum. So that's the 9. Sorry, I meant to delete it, not add it. That's what I was trying. Oh, hang on, what am I doing? Come on. Thank you. And we've got these two cells, these two cells. Right, stating the obvious, these two cells are a minimum of 4 and 5 because 1, 2, and 3 are already placed in box 4. So this has to be a 9. This is another 4, 5 to get back to 9. In fact, it's a different 4, 5. We're going to maybe have to keep track of that in a bit. This 9 tells me that's not a 9. That's a 9. This is a 3-cell arrow, and it's not 9, so this has to be 6, 7, 8. Is that 9 9s already? Almost. There. That is 9 9s. Fantastic. We've got quite the break-in. These two cells that I highlighted at the start of the rule, well now, sorry, start of the solve, well these are clearly not 9s. They are at least a 6 though, because we've got essentially, well, they're not a 6. I know that because that is not 1, 2, or 3. In fact, neither is that. And it would have had to be 1, 2, 3 for it to add up to 6. So it's 7 or 8, meaning I was going to say both of these are 4s and 5s, aren't they? You see, they're not 1, 2, or 3. I could have never fitted a 6 on here because they're not 9 with a 1, 2 pair. So the 6 was never an option. And obviously anything bigger doesn't work. So this is 4, 5. And in the same logic, this is 4, 5. Right, so 4, 5 pair, that gives me 7 and 8 in here. This is 1 and 2 to add up to 9. This is just like a hot knife through butter. It's very smooth so far. Unusual for my solves normally. Let's have a think. I should be able to make some progress in box 5 now. I'm kind of struggling for some reason. Excuse me. Right, so this is not 4 or 5. Yeah. So this is 1, 2, or 7, 8. Come on, Sleuth, this should be... Well, this is 6, 7, 8. So this is not 6, 7, or 8. Right, so this is 1, 2, or 3. It can't be 3 because that would be 6, which is not available. What was wrong with 4, 5? I don't think there's anything wrong with 4, 5. Sorry, remember I was commending this very smooth solve, and then it's like as if I jinxed it. As soon as I said that, it came down crashing to a halt. I mean, talk about timing. I'm not missing anything else obvious, am I? It seems to be very much about these arrows and figuring out what's going on. And it's probably because I'm not doing enough Sudoku. That's probably it. It's usually it. So let's just pencil mark this slot. What is that? 4, 5, 7, 8. This is because I'm just not paying attention. If this is 7 or 8, this would be 1 or 2, and it's not. It's 1, 2, 3. So that is 4, 5. That is 4, 5. These are not 4 5s anymore because, we've got 2 of them. That 7, 8 gives me another 1, 2. That's 1, 2. That's 7, 8. That's 7, 8. That's 4, 5, etc. That's 3. That's 6. Beautiful. That is not a 6. In fact, because it's 3 cells and it's not 9, 1 is on one of these 3 cells. Beautiful. Right. Let's carry on with Sudoku then. So this is, right, so think about the remainder of this row. There's a 1, 2, there is a 6, there is a 7, 8. And I mean, I can just put the whole lot down there, but I can tell you this is the 1, 2. It's not 6. And if I put a 7, 8 on here, plus a 4, 5, I'm definitely not getting to a 7, 8. So this is the 1, 2. This is 6, 7, 8 with a definite 6. Now, if this is 6, 7, or 8, it clearly isn't an 8 because I'm not going to get to an 8 with a 0. Maximum here is another 1, 2. Essentially 1 with a, well, 2 with a 6 to an 8. Can't go any bigger. And it's starting to look a lot like we should be coloring. Really is. 3, 4, 5 with a definite 3. 6, 7, 8. We've done a huge amount of Sudoku and we kind of need to start breaking some of this, breaking into it. Right, coloring it is. The 7, 8s, the 4, 5s, the 1, 2s, they're kind of, essentially there's a whole bunch of pairs that you can see across this. So let's go with yellow, orange. I know they're obviously different because I'm adding up to a 9. So that's yellow, that's orange, that's yellow. Is that helpful? Who knows? Yellow, there's an orange in here. Probably, actually, that's an orange. Right, that's an 8. And I know that for certain because one of them is a 4, one of them is a 5. So that's an 8. That is a 7. This is 1, 2, 4, because that's the only way you can get to a 7 in 3 cells. Now, one of them is, yes, 1, 2, and 5, and the other one would have to be 1, 3, and 4. This one can't be the 5, because if this is 4, this is 1, 2, this is adding up to a 7. So that's was helpful. And then 1, 3, that 3 tells me that's 3, that's 1, that's 2, that's 1, that's 7, that's 8, that's 7, that's 8, that's 2, that's 1, 1 plus the 6, therefore this is the 8. No 1, in fact no 4s, that is 4, that's 2, that's 1, that 4 gave me 3 and 4, look at that, just flying. And I should stop commenting about this. 3 and 4, this is not 1, 3, 5, this is not 2, 3, 4, this can only be 1, 2, 6. Therefore this is 7 according to Sudoku, and this is 5 and something else, 5 and 8. That's the 8, that's the 5, and to finish this box, that's the 3. And then 2 is not here, that's the 2. And then I need a 5, and I need a 6, and I need a 4. You have another 6, 7, 8 in here. That's not 8. Then we've got 1, 2, 4, 6, 7, 4 if I can type, not 4. Obviously not 4 in here, that's not a 1, 3 pair. So it is a 4. Can't get to a 7 with this, so that's 2, that's 1, that's 6, that's 7, that's 7, if I can type. These are not 7s, not 1, not 2, in fact 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, not 1s, not 2s. And that's the entirety of the variants kind of done at this point. So it is just down to Sudoku with what looks like a 5, 3, 5 pair. Another 6, 8, and a 5. No, and a 7. Not helpful. Well, I mean, it does give me a 6-7 pair in the column, doesn't it? Because it's essentially 6-7-8 triple, not an 8, 6-7 pair is a 2. I was getting very excited there. Not helpful. Yeah, no clue. Right, and then back to 6-7-8. Then 2 more that are 3-4 pair. There's another 6-7-8 and a 5. I can at least place the 5. But in fact, it's not 6-7-8, it's just 6-8 because of this 7. Can I do anything about the 7s? Not yet. In fact, that 2 gave me 3, 1, 2. So it was useful. That's a 5. This is just a place digit of 4. 3, 4, 3, 7. Not 7 is 7. Not 7 again. 6-8 pair gives me 1, 6, 8. If I can type 6, 8, 6, 8. 7. And if I've not made any mistakes, 6 for the finish. That is an incredibly smooth puzzle for the difficulty rating. I'm imagining you guys are not necessarily going to get bogged down in it. So he's given it 7 out of 10 in terms of difficulty. And I think, I mean, spot this to get the 1, 2, 3 and the 1, 2. That's immediately a fantastic break-in. Just trying to think where you guys might get bogged down. And then you get all of the 9s very quickly from there, which we've demonstrated. So if you play Sudoku along the way, which to be fair, I very often don't, and then it's really the colouring to discover that these were 8s. Which, again, because it doesn't feel like a colouring puzzle all the way through, that might be another tipping point. Anyhow, I hope you guys enjoyed the puzzle and the video, and I'll see you back soon. Bye-bye for now.